Hi and welcome to Kids Church. We're continuing in our new theme of faith, and today we're going to learn about a man called Abraham. God promised Abraham some really important things and they all came true. One promise affects me and you. The first promise God made to Abraham was that his people would have a land to call their own. It was called the Promised Land. Abraham had to really have faith and trust God to leave the place he grew up in and go start a new life somewhere else. The second promise was about children. God told Abraham that he would have children as numerous as the grains of sand. So, get counting, Brian.
50, 600, 700, 8,000, 9,000, 120,000, 130,000, 300,000, 400,000, 850,000, 860,000, 1,765,000 and 1.
Now back to Abraham. Abraham had been living in the city of Ur, but the people there didn't worship the true God as Abraham did. In the evenings, Abraham would go up and sit on the flat roof of his house as was the custom, and there in the starlight he and God would talk together. One evening God said, "Abraham, I want you to leave this place and go to a land which I will show you, and I will bless you and your children and your children's children, and you shall become a great nation." Leave everything he knew and set out on a journey with no idea where it would end? Abraham hesitated, but only for a moment. He loved God and believed God's promises. Abraham's wife was called Sarah, but they didn't have any kids, which was a major disappointment because they really wanted a family, a big family. But little did they know that God had a plan for them. But Abraham was already 75 years old. That's probably older than your granddad. And Sarah was also pretty old and had not been able to get pregnant. But the good news is they just decided to trust that God would keep his promise, and that's always the right choice. So Abraham and Sarah packed up their things and set out. Each night they camped, and each day they moved on again, and eventually they came to the land of Canaan. And God said, "Abraham, this is the land I will one day give to your children." But so far, Abraham and Sarah had no children. But God said, "I will make them like the grains of sand." Well, this promise sounded great, but after a while, Abraham and Sarah still had no children, let alone as many as the grains of sand. God took Abraham outside his tent and said, "Look at the sky and count the stars. Your children will be like the stars, impossible to count." So Abraham decided to keep on believing and trusting God. He and Sarah waited again, and more years went by. When he was 99 years old, that's the same age as the Duke of Edinburgh who's just died, he was sitting in the doorway of his tent. Suddenly he saw 3 men standing close by. "Come and rest in the shade of the trees," he said. "Let my servants bring you cool water, and let me give you a meal." The men accepted the invitation. Then Abraham rushed around organising everything. His servants hurried to prepare food. Sarah baked fresh bread. Presently the men sat under the trees enjoying the meal. Sarah could overhear the conversation. "Where is your wife?" asked the men. "She's in the tent," Abraham answered. By now he was beginning to realise that these were no ordinary visitors. But one of the visitors said, "Before the year passes and I come again, Sarah will have a son." "A son? At her age?" Sarah laughed out loud. She and Abraham were old, and Sarah had given up hope of having any children. It's probably not a good idea to laugh at God's promises, but Sarah was tired of waiting and had stopped trusting. The great thing is, even if we think it's impossible, God really does keep his promises. Sarah did get pregnant, and the next year, when Abraham was 100 years old, she had a baby. She named him Isaac, which means laughter. If you think about it, a really old lady having a baby is pretty funny. God kept his promise to Abraham and Sarah, even though they didn't think it was possible. It was easy for God, because he can do anything. You remember how God said he was going to give Abraham as many children as there were stars in the sky or grains of sand? Well, Isaac grew up and had kids, who had kids, who had more kids, who had more kids. And this kept on going, and guess who was eventually born in Abraham's line? The rescuer, Jesus. Abraham followed God and had faith to trust God to keep his promise.